happens to be the birthday of Nigeria's acting president, Professor Yemi Oshibanjo, who clocks 60. Sir, very many happy returns of the day. Our third reason for calling this Wednesday morning beautiful is because globally today, everybody is observing the day as the International Women's Day. Yes, our mothers, aunties, nieces, daughters, wives, we salute you for all the efforts you are putting in keeping us going. Today, on the order paper, we have a total of 8 bills that are slated for first reading, 1 motion, and then 8 other bills that will be considered for second reading. Needless to say, the one and only motion has to do, of course, with the International Women's Day celebration, with the theme, Women in the Changing World of Works, Planet 50-50 by 2030. We would start with that, but at the moment, the Senate is in executive session, meaning they are having some tete-a-tete behind closed doors. So which means by the time they are out, we should expect something hot. Even if it's not very hot, at least it will be a little bit warm to whet your appetite. Now, before they open the doors for us to know what is cooking, I will hand you over to our control room. We'll be repeating one of our earlier recorded programs, but as soon as those doors were open, we will now link up for live transmission. I wish you happy viewing.
Below, what is obtainable around the world should be supported by this parliament. I'm therefore of the opinion that it's so straightforward that we do not need to waste so much time on this matter, other than to just take the 2 intents of the motion and to accept the fact that it is reasonably necessary at this time of our history as a parliament. I therefore urge that all my colleagues support this straight motion without any debate. Thank you. And conclusively, I therefore ably second the motion as ably moved by the Deputy Senate President, the Iko Hawan.
Distinguished colleagues, I think it's a pretty straightforward motion. Let's go straight to the prayers. Prayer 1, commend the ECOWAS authority of the heads of states and government for finally enhancing the powers of the community parliament in line with international best practices. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, commend this as a major achievement towards the democratization of the governance of the sub-regional body and promotion of the fine principles of separation of powers and checks and balances. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Congratulate the community parliament on this milestone. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, commend all the organs of the ECOWAS and individuals who championed the cause, worked tirelessly and made personal sacrifices towards the actualization of a true parliament for the people of West Africa. Those in favor of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5, commend members of the international community, especially the various international organizations and development partners which supported and committed their resources towards the achievement of this feat. Those in favor of prayer 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 6, call for the amendment of the Electoral Act of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to empower INEC to conduct election to fill the nation's 35 seats at the community parliament. Those in favor of prayer 6 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer. Yes, Philip Aduda.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. We thank the ECOWAS for giving us for the 35 seats. But however, Mr. President, there are 36 states and including FCT, making it 37. So if we were to go by state, one for each state, there will be 35 states and 1 state will be missing, and then one which is supposed to be federal capital will be out of it. So my additional prayer would be that ask them or urge them to add 2 more seats to make it 37 seats. That's my additional prayers. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anybody seconding the prayer? Distinguished colleagues, let me thank the Deputy Senate President for this motion. Let me also join others to say this is a major achievement in our sub-region. The endorsement by the heads of states and government of the ECOWAS on the Supplementary Act truly enhances the powers of the ECOWAS Parliament, and is indeed historic and very, very commendable. I want to thank all those that worked towards it. I thank our own Deputy Senate President and the leadership of the Parliament. This is something we should all be proud of. It's a victory not only for the legislative democracy, but I think the coming together of the ECOWAS body into a more people-orientated and focused assembly. And we charge the regional body to take advantage of this to ensure that we continue to work for the actualization of regional integration. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Dino Melai on the discrepancies in subsidy payment and non-remittance of funds by the NNPC to the Federation account. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Dino Melai to move his motion.
Senator Dino Melai.
Mr. President, my very patriotic colleagues, my name is Dino Melai, Kogi West. Mr. President, I yet again rise in pain to move this motion once again in the course of our nation's history. Mr. President, very, very patriotic colleagues, the Senate, aware that majority of Nigerians overwhelmingly agree to fight corruption, and this informed the present administration's resolve to tackle the widespread corruption in all its ramifications, inclusive of the petroleum industry. My respected colleagues, the Senate notes with dismay that despite the crackdown on corruption by the present government led by President Muhammadu Buhari, there has been continuous violation by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, as regards non-remittance of proceeds from the sale of refined products into the Federation account. This practice is similar to the problems that sparked the national outrage against the last administration. Mr. President, the Senate is aware that though independent marketers account for 49% of imported petroleum products, while the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, account for 51% of imported products, but this does not justify the huge amount it has been paid as subsidy in the last 10 years. My respected colleagues, the Senate is concerned that from the records derived from NNPC, 5 to 10 cargoes of imported crude arrive the country monthly, while about 5 cargoes are refined locally, and each cargo contains 5.8 million liters of refined crude products. Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, the Nigerian Senate is worried that the excess products which cannot be dispensed, that goes into different tank farms owned by private individuals, are not properly accounted for, as they are illegally sold off by the owners of these tank farms in manner that is opaque and usually designed to rip off the public and enrich a few persons.
Any other petition? Okay, Senator Rozoko.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on Order 42, and if I'm permitted, I shall read.
Go ahead. Put back your microphone.
The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter be definite and urgent. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, a few days ago, the Nigerian Union of Allied Health Practitioners. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, a few days ago, the Nigerian Union of Allied Health Practitioners went on strike over the non-implementation of an agreement that was entered between them and the federal government in 2009. And some of the terms of those agreements was keeping of the salary structure, salary scale, CONIS 10, as well as provision of facilities and infrastructure in most of our health institutions, as well as training of the personnel. And I think that that matter is urgent, and that the relevant Senate committees should interface with that union and the relevant ministries to ensure that that strike is brought to an end as speedily as possible before it begins to affect the health sector in Nigeria. Mr. President, I so move.
That's the Committee on Health. The Health Committee. Okay. Well, I don't think we need to go into a formal motion on this. It's straightforward. So I think we can as well direct our committee to look into the matter immediately. So the Chairman on Health, please, you have to liaise with your counterpart on labor and productivity to stem the impending or the ongoing strike. Okay? Thank you. Senior Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the avoidance of double taxation between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Kingdom of Spain, Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, avoidance of double taxation between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Kingdom of Spain Bill 2017, HB 444, first reading.
Dear colleagues, avoidance of double taxation between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Kingdom of Spain Bill 2017, House Bill 444, first reading taken. Senior Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing on my name on the avoidance of double taxation between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the South Korea Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, avoidance of double taxation between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Republic of South Korea Bill 2017, HB 445, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, avoidance of double taxation between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Republic of South Korea Bill 2017, HB 445, first reading taken. Senior Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the National Postgraduate College of Medicine Laboratory Science Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Postgraduate College of Medicine Laboratory Science Bill 2017, HB 405, first reading.
Dear colleagues, National Postgraduate College of Medicine Laboratory Science Bill 2017, HB 405, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the avoidance of double taxation between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Kingdom of Sweden Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, avoidance of double taxation between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Kingdom of Sweden Bill 2017, HB 443, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, avoidance of double taxation between the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Kingdom of Sweden, Bill 2017, HB 443, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Philip Tanima Aduda on the FCT Magistrate Salaries and Allowances Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Capital Territory Magistrate Salaries and Allowance Bill 2017, SB 429, first reading.
Dear colleagues, FCT Magistrate Salaries and Allowances Bill 2017, SB 429, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Ike Ekweremadu on the City University of Technology, Enugu, Establishment ETC Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, City University of Technology, Enugu, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 426, first reading.
This is a very important bill. City University of Technology, Enugu Establishment Bill 2017, SB 426, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Ubali Shitu on the National Commission for Internally Displaced Persons, Refugees and Migrants Commission Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Commission for Internally Displaced Persons, Refugees and Migrant Commission Bill 2017, SB 335, first reading.
Very distinguished colleagues, National Commission for Internally Displaced Persons, Refugees and Migrants Commissions Bill 2017, SB 335, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Ibrahim Gobir on the Federal College of Education, Sabon Birni, Sokoto, Establishment ETC Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal College of Education, Sabon Birni, Sokoto, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 430, first reading.
It's also a very important bill. Federal College of Education, Sabon Benin, Sokoto Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 430, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Binta Masi Garba and 7 others on the International Women's Day. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Binta Masi Garba to move the motion.
Senator Binta.
Thank you, the President of the Senate, distinguished colleagues. My name is Binta Masi Garba, representing Adamawa North Senatorial Zone of Adamawa State.
Sorry, do you have only one male senator sponsoring the bill? Or other people are signing up? You can see only one male senator. Other people? Yes, who next? Who else? All right, go ahead. What else on Boji? Is Sonny's name on it? Are you part of this bill, this motion? Okay. Now go ahead.
Senator John Eno, Senator Ali Wakil, Senator Danju Mala, Senator Marafa Kabir Garba, and the leader, Senator Ibrahim Gobri, Senator Dino Malaye. I think all the male senators that are in these chambers are in support of these wonderful motions that I'm about to move. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, today, the 8th of March 2017, stands as International Day for Women. And on this day, the theme is Women in the Changing World of Work, Planet 50/50 by 2030. The Senate notes that the March 8th is the International Day for Women's Day, a day that honors the achievement and call attention to the rights of women. Further note that the theme for this year's celebration is Women in the Changing World of Work, Planet 50/50 by 2030, with particular focus on women empowerment. Many of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, specially recognize the need to empower women as both an objective and a key to sustainable development. The Senate recalls that the Women's Day, IWD, was first officially recognized in 1911 and later recognized by the United Nations in 1975. In 1995, over 189 countries, including Nigeria, converged in Beijing, China, for the 4th World Conference on Women and signed an action plan called the Beijing Declaration. The Senate observed that in 2015, world leaders adopted the Sustainable Development Goals, placing gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls as the heart of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This year, International Women's Day focuses on Goal 8 of the SDG, decent work and economic growth, which challenges governments around the world to achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all women, including young people and persons with disability, and equal pay for work of equal value. Further observe the achievement of goals including ending poverty, promoting inclusive and sustainable economic growth, reducing inequality within and between countries, and achieving gender. Thank you, Mr. President. Further observe the achievement of goals including ending poverty, promoting inclusive and sustainable economic growth, reducing inequalities within and between countries, and achieving gender equalities and empowerment of all women and girls. Rest upon unlocking the full potentials of women in the world of work. Aware that policies are needed to promote women's access to innovative technologies and practice, decent work, and climate-resilient jobs, and protect women from violence in workplaces. The Senate further aware that the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, the VIPP, which is the VAP bill that was signed into law in 2015, is yet to be domesticated in any state of the Federation, let alone to be implemented. Concerned that the implementation of policies that prohibit violence against women and girls are still very poor, practices such as violence against women and girls in the public and private sphere, including trafficking, sexual and other types of exploitations, early child and forced marriage, female genital mutilations are still being practiced. Further concerned that women often bear the burden of unpaid care and domestic work. And when these unpaid hours are added to salary work, women actually work very long hours in developing and developed countries. Moreover, women are more significantly underrepresented as legislators, senior government officials, and corporate chief executives and managers. The Senate accordingly resolved to facilitate with Nigerian women on this year's International Women's Day celebration, to call on government at all levels to give women a quota in all elective positions, offices, and lastly, mandate the Committee on Women Affairs to look into the domestication of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act in all states of the federations and report back to the Senate. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I so move.
Very well, thank you, Senator John Eno.
Mr. President, my name is John Owen Eno, Cross River Central. Mr. President, my name has already been mentioned as one of the co-sponsors to this motion. And I think I support this motion because I join women and the rest of the country to celebrate this day. Somewhere in Ekiti State today, it's already been declared a work-free day, for the sake of this celebration. And I think that given the history of our country, given the history of even the world generally, and what women have had to pass through, I think that most of what this motion calls for are things that will require some deliberateness. I mean, women have come from a point in which there's been largely claimed that they suffer from double oppression. They suffer as members of a disprivileged group, and they also suffer oppression as women. And I think that beginning from 1995, at the World Conference on Women, where the idea that women's rights were human rights, I think that these yearly celebrations, these yearly events should always remind us about the role of women in our society. And I think that given even the history of our country, women that have occupied some critical and strategic positions have discharged themselves very, very effectively. And I think that we need to continue to bring this to bear in terms of our public policy, in terms of whatever we do for the sake of women. Some weeks back in the European Parliament, surprisingly, there was one of the parliamentarians that even got up to justify the unequal pay and unequal work for women for the sake of gender. And I think that the kind of clamor that rose up against him is an indication of the fact that in the 21st century and moving into the target date of 2030, that we should get to a point in which these issues become issues that are just normal and obvious, and that as men that support women, we should rise up and support this motion and try to support women in all ramifications and in every way possible. I so support.
Very well, thank you, Senator Shehu-Sani.
Mr. President, I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu-Sani to add my voice to this very important motion. Women are not only wives and mothers or sisters, but they are partners in nation building. And I believe at a time like this, it's a time to recognize, appreciate, and honor their contribution to the political, socio-economic, and cultural development and advancement of our country. A day like this is naturally marked globally as a day to appreciate for all they have done and also all they are capable of doing. I believe that on a day like this should not only be celebrated, but should serve as a point to which we will all make a firm, clear, and undisguised declaration of where we want our women to be. In politics today, our women are relegated to a certain percentage, perhaps wavering the amount of money they buy forms to contest elections. But I think it is time enough for us to have a firm commitment to the Beijing Declaration, to implement it fully, and to see to it from both federal, local, and state level there's full compliance to international declarations and commitment and conventions which Nigeria has signed. And I join Nigerians and the world globally in celebrating this day. Thank you very much.
Very well, thank you. Senator Magnus Abe.
Mr. President, my distinguished and eminent colleagues, I first of all want to observe that this motion was sponsored by only the female members of this Senate. I would have been very happy to be one of the co-sponsors of this motion. And I want to, on behalf of all the men here, say that we should be co-opted as co-sponsors of this motion. Women in this country have played a very significant role in the development of Nigeria. And we all know that there is no society that can make any reasonable progress except our women make progress. Every society is measured by how well the weakest members of the society are treated. And naturally, the weakest members of any society are the children and the women. Today is the International Day for Women. It is an opportunity not only for us to congratulate our women, but for us as a country to look inwards and ask ourselves, how fair have we really been to the women folk in this country? In terms of ability, in terms of brains, in terms of contributions, our women have shown that given the opportunity, they can do as well as any man. But where are those opportunities for our women in this country? It is clear that while there is a lot for us to celebrate in our women, there is still a lot for us as a country to do about our women. I want to join my brother, Comrade Senator Shehu Sani, who has said that we should implement the Beijing Declaration. I want to go a step further, Mr. President, to ask that it is about time that we look at the models that some other countries have used to lift up women politically and economically, which includes amending the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to make it constitutionally mandatory that women be given opportunity to participate at certain levels of government. After trying for several years to do it by moral injunction, it is clear that our women will not get the opportunity unless there is some compelling force behind it for us to do so. I want to use this opportunity today, the International Women's Day, to call on this Senate to lead the way. Let us amend the Constitution and give an opportunity to our women to contribute. Our country will be better for it. They have shown that when they are given the opportunity, they can do as well and sometimes better than some men. I congratulate our women. I wish them the best. I celebrate them. And I join those that today honor the contribution that women have made to Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Senator Stella Odua.
Thank you, Mr. President. My dear colleagues, my name is Stella
Odua. I represent Anambra North. Mr. President, today is a very peculiar day. Peculiar in the sense that women in particular should be celebrated, not just today, but every day of our lives. Mr. President, it is sad that in 21st century, Nigerian women are still asking that their program should be mainstreamed. I think, Mr. President, the Senate should call on the government to ensure that all programs and activities that will ensure that women are properly and adequately represented in all levels of governance should be encouraged. Mr. President, if you look at the census, the last census, it tells us that women are 60% of the population. Actually, it tells us that for every 3 females is 1 man, which means that you have actually larger number of Nigerian women in this society. And so you wonder, when did we become the minority? How did we become the minority? Why were we relegated to the background as women? And one of the reasons why that happened is because we women allowed it to happen. And so I'm calling on Nigerian women to stand up today and tomorrow to say to men, to say to government that enough is enough, that we must be treated with respect, we must be given the opportunity to exhibit our capability and capacity, and all our program must be prioritized. I believe all of us sitting here, we are not test tube babies, so we are byproducts of female beings. Therefore, if you talk about superiority, you should talk about women being the superior being. How can you be superior being and you be relegated to the background? Again, Mr. President, it's because we allowed it. But today I say to Nigerian women, we have come of age. We need to take the battle of leadership. We need to go ahead and take what rightfully belongs to us. If you take the election, Mr. President, the statistic has it that all the voters, when you count the electoral output and the input, 70% come from women. And it's only women that stay behind to defend their votes. So, Mr. President, leadership opportunity should be given to women. Not just Nigerian women, but women everywhere in the world. I want to encourage my sister, Senator Binta, who is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Women Affairs, to enhance her advocacy programs to make sure that women are encouraged to do what women do best, and that is to lead the men. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Senator Rozoko.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Rose Oko, Cross River North. I stand up to support this motion and to commend the very many men who have spoken very passionately and from their hearts about women on this very special day. As we all know, the International Women's Day celebrates the achievements of women socio-politically, culturally, economically, all over the world, and draws attention to continued and sustained efforts to engender gender parity. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, on this very special day, let me especially commend the Senate for some of the bills that you have passed that concern women. The bill on the elimination of discrimination against women, which was passed, and enjoin you and indeed Nigerian men to ensure that this bill is passed and signed into law, and that the implementation of this law, when passed, is enforced by all. Mr. President, let me commend this Senate for another thing that we have done. At the Senate committee level of the constitutional amendment, Section 147 has been amended to include 35% affirmative action for women. Let me also enjoin our menfolk, and indeed Nigerian men in general, that there should be sustained action as far as this is concerned to ensure that 35% affirmative action as recommended in the Constitution by the Constitutional Review Committee is passed when it is placed before this Senate. Mr. President, as we speak, in other climes in the world, especially in some countries in Southern Africa like Rwanda, they have actually enforced some of these by different statutes, where Rwanda now has about 50% of women in their legislature, and some of the Nordic countries also have come very close to gender parity. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Nigerian women will continue to enjoin our menfolk to support their mothers, to support their sisters, to support their wives, so that this segment of the society, half of the society actually, their talents and their resources can be tapped for the overall good of the country. I thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues.
Senator Razaki.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Fatima Raju Rasaki, representing Ekiti Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me to make my contribution to this well-researched motion by my sister and my colleague. Mothers are the joy of every home. A home without a mother is like a generator without fuel. Mothers are the most caring and most loving figures in the world. Mothers deserve our love, our respect, and even our gifts. A world without mothers will be inhuman, because mothers always know how to give witnesses, even in the worst of times. Without mothers, not only will there be no new people of faith, but the faith will lose a good portion of its simple and profound warmth. Mothers are the biological source of life and the unifying figures in every family. They are the most precious gift of God to every human family. United Nations has set aside the month of March as a month of celebration for mothers and women in general. And with this year's International Women's Day anniversary theme, Women in the Changing World of Work Planet 50/50 by 2030. Behold, for change it becomes imperative to accord women the honor they deserve with a campaign for more gender-inclusive world. Women's rights are human's rights. But in these troubled times of our world becomes more unpredictable and chaotic, the rights of women and girls are being reduced, restricted, and reserved. Empowering women and girls is the only way to protect their rights and make sure they can realize their full potential. Historic imbalances in power, relations between men and women, by growing inequalities within and between societies and countries, are leading to greater discrimination against women and girls. Around the world, tradition, cultural values, and religions are being misused to curtail women's rights, to entrench sexism, and defend misogynistic practices. Women's legal rights, which has never been equal to men's on any continent, are being eroded further. Women's rights over their own bodies are questioned and undermined. Women are routinely targeted, for intimidation and harassment in cyberspace and in the real life. In the worst cases, extremists and terrorism build their ideologies around the subjugation of women and girls and single them out for sexual and gender-based violence, forced marriages, and virtual enslavement. Despite some improvements, leadership positions across the board are still held by men, and the economic gender gap is widening. Thanks to outdated attitudes and entrenched male chauvinism, we must change this by empowering women at all levels, enabling their voices to be heard, and giving them control over their own lives and over the future of our world. I dare totally agree with the prayers as contained in this motion. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for celebrating with us.
All right, distinguished colleagues, we will take Senator Mao, Bukaraba, Ababu, and then Dino will round up, and then we'll put the questions.
Distinguished Senate President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Mao Arukwe Huabungwa. I want to thank you, my President, for giving me this opportunity to lend my voice to this motion. Today is a unique day, it's a special day that will celebrate womanhood. It is important to note that I doubt if without mothers we would have been here today speaking. We have our mothers, we have our wives, we have our sisters. And not just that, women have actually been involved in nation building. We remember today people like Margaret Ekpo. We remember Mrs. Ransom Kuti and others who were in the forefront during the fight for liberation, during the fight for freedom, for the liberation of Nigeria and our independence. And we respect them, we recognize them. It's worth the while that today we are gathered to celebrate women. It is very, very important. And I want to state clearly that most women have actually distinguished themselves in different spheres of life. I recall that in my school days, a lady taught the class, but I don't think it's just because she was a lady, but I think she distinguished herself in the class. And today she's a professor, and we are proud of her. I want to, in celebrating women today, luckily it's a day I celebrate my wife because my marriage was in March, and actually my wife's birthday is also in March. So I think it coincides with the International Women's Day. For me, it's a day of and month of celebration, actually. But I want to use this opportunity really to call the government. Let's not just play lip service as regards giving women their right of place in position or in authority, or in, if you look at today, how many women do we have in government? Judging from we thought that from 2011 to 2015 we got it right, or we are getting it right, or we are getting there. Because if you look at women in appointment in service, we were about 20-something%. But today I think we have gone down a little bit. We have less than 5% of women. So it's an opportunity for us to make this statement, to call this present government that they must look at the issue of women, where you can give them more responsibilities, and they are there to distinguish themselves. So for me, one thing I want us to take home today is that it is time that we call this government in particularly that women should be given the right of place. They should be recognized, especially in appointments. That's on that note, Mr. President, I want to congratulate the women once more. Thank you.
Senator Bukaraba, the husband of a female minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I remain Senator Bukaraba Ibrahim, representing Yobe East Senatorial District of Yobe State. I rise to facilitate with Nigerian women on this International Women's Day celebration. The motion And my colleagues who spoke earlier have really said almost everything. So I will not waste my time and our time by repeating what others have said earlier. So I am in total agreement with what has been said because nobody has said anything wrong or anything negative since this debate started. But by way of emphasis, Mr. President, sir, I will call on government to fully implement this Beijing declaration. Ordinarily, I would have asked for more than 35%. But since women themselves have decided on 35%, but unfortunately, 22 years after that declaration, very little has really been implemented. Very little has been achieved. So the emphasis now is on implementation of what has already been agreed upon universally. That's by reaching the 35% before we move further to ask for more. So by all emphasis, as I said earlier, we need to implement this 35% Beijing Declaration of 1995 before we move forward. So, Mr. President, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to add my voice by way of emphasis so that we will accelerate the achievement of what has universally been agreed and accepted over 22 years ago. 22 years is not a short period, Mr. President, sir. We ought to start seriously implementing what we all have agreed. Thank you, sir.
The uncommon husband, Senator Babio.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, for the opportunity to add my voice to appreciate the women. I want to congratulate the Nigerian women on a day like this and to say that it's particularly dear to me because the empowerment and emancipation of women will affect me directly. I'm very privileged to have 4 daughters in my house, and I love my children, and I'd like them to grow up to have a place of leadership, not just in Nigeria, but in the world. So today, I urge all leaders across board, at the local government level, at the state level, and those who are in charge of parastatals in Nigeria, to give the Nigerian women, the Nigerian child, the great opportunities for them to contribute their quota towards nation building. The studies have proven that the women have proven to be better managers than men in almost all facets of life. That is why today, from Liberia all the way to Malawi, you go down to the United Kingdom, you go to a place like Germany, you see women are everywhere in charge of their various countries. I look forward to one day when Nigeria will have an opportunity of having a woman as the president of this country, because they will bring a lot of refreshment and fresh air into governance and into the politics of this nation. At the same time, I want to urge Nigerian women to continue to respect their husbands and to ensure that we are happy at every point in time. Not that we want to be the head. They can turn the head the way they want. But they should give us the opportunity to, to develop them and empower them. Because, Mr. President, on a very serious day like this, I should not crack a joke. If you recall when a woman was in church with her husband, and the pastor called that all widows should come out for prayers, and the woman stood up. And the husband begged her and said, please stay. The prayer is for women, or it's for widows. And the woman turned to the husband and said, are you a man? Are you alive? And that she must go and pray. Because probably there was a problem in the house, so that her husband could wake up. So when something like that happens, you tend to see that sometimes it's important that women also give heed to respect their husbands. So while speaking for the women, I also want to urge the women to note that we don't intend to be the head. That naturally, because of the strength, that we are stronger, and our job is to help them. So I want to say that when I had the opportunity to be a governor, I did not only empower women, I made sure that they were also heads, not just in parastatals, from head of civil service, from chief judge of the state. I had 2 female chief judges. I went ahead to ensure that we also made them chairmen of local government areas, and I had a lot of them in my cabinet. And I think that is what had been the practice prior to this time.
when the PDP was in government for over 16 years. And I know that this APC change will definitely give an opportunity, the leader is looking at me, to women in the country to play a very key role. So I congratulate Nigerian women today. And I want to say that across board, education is the most vital element in empowerment of women. So the girl child has to be taken care of first. That was why when I had the opportunity, I declared free and compulsory education. And I do hope that in this country we can create a special education facility for women. Because when you empower the woman and develop the girl child, you are automatically empowering the community and the society. Everything starts fresh. The first teacher that any child will have in life is the mother. And of course, when there is war, the women bear the brunt of the war. The man that is being killed in the war front is the child of a woman. That same man is also a husband. That same man is also a father. So any way you look at it, it is the woman that everything comes back to. It's either it is your child that is dying, or it is your husband that is dying. So automatically the women are the ones that bear the brunt and the hardship of any warfare. So we must celebrate the Nigerian women and celebrate women globally and pray that across board we will give opportunities to them so that they can contribute their quota towards nation building. I so submit, Mr. President.
Finally, Senator Dino.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, I celebrate today Nigerian women, and I also celebrate my mother, Comfort Melaye. I celebrate my daughter, Oluwagbotemi Ruth Melaye. I also remember today Queen Amina of Zaria, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, Gambo Shawaba, Leila Dogoyaro, Mariam Babangida, Dr. Sarah Jubril, Dora Akunyili, Patricia Olubumi Ete, and Professor Alele Williams. Mr. President, today is a remarkable day in the history of mankind. Every one of us in this exalted chamber today came into existence through a woman. It is men are not as important anymore because many of you are sperm donors. As I speak today, I encourage the Nigerian women to be courageous enough to take their rightful place in the history of this country and across the globe. So today I encourage more participation of Nigerian women in politics. And Nigerian women should emulate Margaret Thatcher. Nigerian women should emulate Susan Rice. Nigerian women should emulate Hillary Clinton. Nigerian women must rise to this level of international participation in politics. Nigerian women must also become the defender of the people. It is not the prerogative of men alone to be activists or to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Globally, women have excelled in this field. So today I recommend to Binta Masi Garba, I recommend to Stella Odwa, I recommend to Fatima Rajurasaki, and I recommend to Senator Rose, to Oko, to become defender of the Nigerian people. That you should imbibe the spirit of Rosa Parks and also imbibe the spirit of Mary Celeste. I also say that Nigerian women must also rise in the business world, and they should emulate the lives of the greatest woman in Africa, Mrs. Folorunsho Alakija. They should emulate the late Kuforuji Olubi, the former chairman of UBA. Nigerian women must also aspire to get to the peak of their career. They should emulate the likes of Aloma Mariam, who was the former CJN of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nigerian women must rise and compete favorably because manners don't fall from heaven any longer. The New Testament says, he that refuses to labor should not eat. Nigerian women, I love you.
Thank you, very distinguished colleagues, for your very kind words on this special day for our women. Before I put the question regarding the prayers, I would like, on behalf of the rest of us, to congratulate our wives, our sisters, our mothers, indeed our daughters, on this special day, and then to thank them for the various roles they've played in our lives. We'd like to thank them for the moments we spent in their wombs, for the sacrifice they made when we were young, when we were sick, and when we were in one trouble or the other. We appreciate them as companions and supporters at all material time. But it's also important to congratulate our women for their accomplishments. Today, more than any time in the history of this world, we have more female heads of states and heads of government. Even in Nigeria here, the women have taken over the legal profession. They've also taken over the teaching profession. They're also in aviation. They're also in politics, and they're all doing very well. So I'd like to congratulate all of you for all these achievements and accomplishments. Distinguished colleagues, let me also say that there's one area of our Constitution that needs to be addressed regarding women, and I think it has to do with Section 42 of our Constitution. Section 42 deals with the issue of non-discrimination of persons on different reasons, especially for being female. But in 42.3, it goes ahead to say that the exception is made to some areas, including the armed forces. And I believe that today our women are also doing well in armed forces. That must be an anachronistic legislation that needs to be removed so that there will be no discrimination against our women in the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have very proud people, women, today serving our armed forces. So that aspect of our Constitution needs to be reflected upon and possibly removed. So on this note, I would like to thank all of you for your kind words again to our women. We wish you a very nice day. And as we celebrate our women today, we wish them more accomplishments. So having said this, let us go straight to the prayers. One, that we do facilitate with Nigerian women on this year's International Women's Day celebration. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Call on governments at all levels to give women quota in all elective offices. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And finally, mandate the Committee on Women Affairs to look into the domestication of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act in all states of the Federation and back to the Senate. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the second reading of the Investment and Securities Act 2007 Amendment Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 13th December 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Hassan Mohammed to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Sir Hassan Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Hassan. I represent Yobe South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Investment and Securities Act is the regulatory and institutional framework on which the investment and securities market in Nigeria operates. The Act establishes the Securities and Exchange Commission as the apex regulatory authority for the Nigerian capital market, as well as regulator of the market, to ensure the protection of investors, ensure competition, efficiency, transparency, and development of the market in an orderly fashion. The amendment here seeks to strengthen the capacity of the Securities and Exchange Commission to deliver regulation of the market in an environment that is fair, equitable, and accountable. This has become very necessary as we are striving to curtail corruption and strengthen our agency's capacity to be accountable and operate within international best practices. This amendment heavily leans on improving the SEC regulation, especially on bonds. This is to ensure and to maintain proper standards of conduct and professionalism in the bond securities business. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we have seen a new and worrying practice where public institutions assessing the bond market in a manner that undermines the integrity of the market and weakens its ability to grow efficiently for the use of genuine investors in the public or private sector. A case in point here is where bond proceeds are applied for projects other than those for which the bond was first issued. With these amendments, the investing public is more than ever guaranteed that their investment and risks are placed on the bond offer. The SEC can now appoint a reputable financial institution licensed by the Commission as custodian or a lead bank for the purpose of warehousing bonds proceeds for the duration of the execution of projects noted on the prospectus of such bonds. Also, the current amendment seeks to strengthen the Securities and Exchange Commission's power to enhance investors' confidence and improve ease of investing and doing business in Nigeria. This bill targets to reduce the cost of compliance to existing regulatory requirements that do not add to the efficiency of the market. Distinguished colleagues, it is time for us to do whatever it takes to attract more and more investment into the country. This we can only achieve if we remove all the regulatory clogs in our market and free it up for greater efficiency and private sector enablement. It starts with cutting out unnecessary burden, especially those that we can do without and has no clear and apparent usefulness. The amendment proposed here will see to the reduction of some of these unfair obligations on public limited companies. For instance, the obligation for public limited companies to register all their shares with the Securities and Exchange Commission, where there is no immediate intention to issue all those new shares to investors. This amounts to front-loading of costs, which the affected company could have allocated to other needs. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we have proposed here amendments that will now make it clear that while public limited companies are required to register their shares and other securities with the Securities and Exchange Commission before the said securities are to be issued, they do not need to do so immediately. The securities are created if there is no immediate intention to issue those securities. Another issue you would find that this amendment has sought to address is the issue of technological adaptation. While there have been watershed changes in the technology in which the market operates today, there has been very little done to integrate and adapt the regulatory framework to meet and be in tandem with the advancements that have been so far introduced in the market, both locally and internationally. For example, public prospectuses are still expected to be printed and circulated in hard copies to prospective investors as part of the public offering requirements for shares. This requirement costs a whole lot of money to comply with and reduces the ability of our people to take the opportunity offered in the market to increase their investment. Beyond the cost is the limitation it places on assessing these instruments. The amendment sought would expand the applicable window for public offers to include offering placed on websites and other electronic means without the need for hard copy prospectus. This would also reduce the cost of processing an offer both at the regulatory level and at the market level. It will also deepen participation in the market across fiscal spaces. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the current amendment also serves as an anti-corruption scheme, as it has provisions that will further update the regulatory framework in the market to reduce the potential for insider trading and other such market vices. This has become necessary due to the vulnerabilities that has arisen by the impact of technology and other recent advancements in the operation of the market. Insider trading regulation remains a very important internationally accepted indicator of the level of advancement, integrity, transparency in the market. It is therefore crucial today as we strive to meet international best practices in our market rules that we are seen to be updating our regulations to ensure that we narrow the gap of market vulnerability to manipulation to the barest minimum. It is also envisaged that the current amendment would help align the market regulation with the coming into force of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Bill when passed, to avoid overlaps and confusion in the market regulation scheme. The implications of these amendments will be to deepen the reliability, attractiveness, and culture of the Nigerian market to operate within the globally accepted standards of market operations. The implications of the Nigerian economy will be very positive as we work our way up towards a complete diversification of the Nigerian economy and the participation of the private sector in all aspects of our economy. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill is one of our priority bills aimed at improving the Nigerian business environment and providing the right framework for greater accountability and stem the tide of corruption, which has become critical for a proper development of the Nigerian market. I therefore ask all of us to support this bill and pass it through second reading. Thank you, Mr. President. 3 minutes.
Senator Adeleke.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Isiaka Adeleke, Osun West. While I support some parts of the bill, I will want to call our attention to the other part. As chairman of the Capital Markets Committee on Capital Markets, I'm a member of the Capital Market Implementation Committee 2015 to 2025, and there have been some proposals as contained in this bill, which are already in the pipeline. The case in point is the issuance of bonds, where we monitor and ensure that what those bonds are issued for are utilized for that same purpose. We have done that. The issue of using electronic devices to communicate to investors, we discussed that too, but the issue is not everywhere that will have internet. It's not everywhere that will have electricity. Those are the challenges we are facing. But it could have been a better thing if all those things, by our mothers and fathers in the rural areas who invest, they don't know anything about internet. There's none even in some villages. But if we can do more to extend those to those areas, it could have been better and cost effective. Those are two areas I think I can mention here. Thank you.
Senator Solomon Adiola.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleague. I remain Adiola Solomon Olamilekon, representing Lagos West Senatorial District. I'm from Lagos State. Mr. President, I want to commend the prime mover of this proposed amendment to the Investment and Security Act Amendment Bill. At this point in time of our nation's history, Mr. President, one major driver of this economy should be the capital market. But what do we have as of today? You have a capital market that the investors doesn't have any confidence in. You have a capital market where day in, day out, what is recorded on the floor are losses. A free flow of losses from one companies to the other. You have a capital market that is being manipulated to the advantage of some selected few. You have a capital market that doesn't have the bites anymore to drive or to assist in boosting this economy. Mr. President, going through the amendment that has been sought by the prime mover, I want to say this, starting with the issue of the bond. The bond usually is the cheapest source of fund for every government. This is where you can approach the capital market to source for funds that can, if judiciously applied to capital expenditure, you can easily see the result with little or no burden on the states or the government. But Mr. President, what do we have today? We have diversion of this fund. Yes, while sourcing for this fund, you have documentation that will have been prepared that this and this and this is what I want to use this fund for. But once they assess it, go and look at it, there is no mechanism in place that monitors this implementation to the latter. Yeah. And you see, all these are by no means try to make even this issue of bond issuance nothing to write home about. And that is why you find our federal government approaching the Euro bond, going abroad to go and source for funds. But if this we have has been put to proper use, you will by now will not be talking about this because these are cheaper source of funds. Again, Mr. President, are we not even taking aback when companies like MTN, Glo, Airtel refuse to be listed on the stock exchange of Nigeria, and whereas MTN is listed on the South Africa Stock Exchange? And what do? They are doing private placement. That they want to only deal with the big people. They don't want to, every Nigerian to be partaker of this. Yes, we cannot, but at least this is part of what we should ensure. And it shows lack of confidence in our market if they could not come out and say they want to be listed on the stock exchange. And I believe with this amendment being sought, we can bring all these people to them to be an active player in our market. On the area of technology, which has been mentioned, I quite agree with the proposed prime mover of the bill. We cannot base that because there are lack of internet or power in some places also. God, it has been made possible for us. Our phones, once you have data on your phone, you can have access to internet anywhere in Nigeria. So we should encourage and we should support this amendment being sought holistically, and let us please, for once, look critically into this market, because I, for one, am not happy. When the moment we announce that the economy is in recession, a lot of people pull out of our markets. And for the market to return, we are finding it difficult. And I want to strongly believe that with this amendment being proposed, being sought for, we can at least introduce more confidence back into this market. And at least at the end of the day, we have a functional and effective capital market that will work for all in Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Senator Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf, Taraba Central. There are three fundamental issues raised in this bill. One of them is the warehousing of bond proceeds. As good as it looks like, if federal government raises a bond, the proceeds are there for federal government to utilize. Now, if you say you are appointing another custodian to have custody of those proceeds for the project's period that they will be used, it's going to add additional cost to the cost of issuing the bonds. So we have to be very, very careful how we use the custodians to warehouse the proceeds. Number two, sir, I very much support the world is going electronics. The world is going digital. We can we can't continue to remain analog. So I believe by issuing our capital market instruments, whether they are bonds, whether they are debenture stocks, whether they are shares, preference, or ordinary, they should have the opportunity to have an input of electronic in them. I support that. Also, my colleague here, Yai, said something. Our capital market in this country is not deepened, is not widened. We have prospects of deepening our capital market. He gave example of the MTN, Airtel. They are making fantastic profits. There is no reason why their shares cannot be quoted on the stock, on our stock exchange. It may be their choice, but certainly there's a fundamental issue. First of all, we have to look at it. What do we want to do with this? Do we want to improve the development of Nigeria or not? If money is being generated and majority of it is transferred to the shares of people outside this country, then we are only getting what we call dividend of democracy, caught and uncaught. For me, the GSM, honestly speaking, by the time you put all the costs into it, even the opportunity cost, today our private, telephone lines are virtually gone. We are using the most expensive form of communication in the world today, which is the GSM. And where is the money going to? The money is not going to Nigerians. The money is going outside Nigeria. And we are sitting, all the time talking about, the Naira is depreciating, the Naira is depreciating. Here is a lot of money pumped out of this country. By the time you put the cost of the GSM lines, the cost of the handsets, the cost of all these things, by the time you put them through, distinguished colleagues, you will imagine how much money is pumped out of this country. And because these telephone companies are not listed on our stock exchange. So I believe that while we support this bill, but we also, have to look in a way to make a preference for people to quote their shares on the stock exchange and even issue debenture stocks. There's no reason why they cannot do that. They can call what we call by introduction. List some little form of their shares and majority of they can borrow. So that is the only way Nigeria will benefit from all these companies. They are very, very big companies making so much profit out of this country, and they are not listed. Nigerians are not benefiting. We think that by talking on the line, which is 90% social and only probably 10% economic, and we think that we are getting a lot of it from this GSM. I believe my colleagues should support the bill, but while supporting the amendment of the bill, we will also look at the possibility of creating avenue for all these companies that are making fantastic profit to cut their shares and also, if possible, issue debenture stocks and register them on the stock exchange. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, distinguished colleagues. We've listened to your very incisive and informed contributions. I think whatever concerns we have can be addressed at the committee level. So having said this, I would like to put the question. Those in support that this bill be read second time, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to amend the Investment and Securities Act 2007 and for other matters connected therewith 2017, second reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to amend the Investment and Securities Act 2007 and for other matters connected therewith 2017, second reading taken and referred to the Committee on Capital Market to report back in 4 weeks. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the second reading of the Alwan Ikoku University of Education Owerri Establishment ETC Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 1st December 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyanwu to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Anyanwu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Sam Anyanwu. I represent Imo East in Imo State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the establishment of the Avandikoku Federal University of Education, Owerri. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, we all know that education is the bedrock of every modern society. The existence of a sound and robust educational system in any country is predicated on the availability of qualified and well-trained teachers to impart the required knowledge on the students. Thus, the need to have a strong system in our educational sector that shall continuously produce well-qualified and trained teachers, as it is obtainable in other developed climes, cannot be overemphasized. This bill, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, was read for the first time in the Hallowed Chambers on the 1st of December 2016. Mr. President of the Senate and my distinguished colleagues, you may recall that in the month of May 2015, exactly 24th of May 2015, the Federal Executive Council approved the upgrading of 4 colleges of education at Kanu, Owerri, Ondo, and Zaria to federal universities of education. These institutions are known to be the oldest post-grade 2 teachers training colleges and the pioneer advanced teachers colleges and colleges of education in Nigeria. The idea of upgrading the colleges to autonomous teachers education degree awarding institutions goes back as far back as the 1980s, when stakeholders and prominent educationists like Emeritus Professor Shegu Adeshina proposed their upgrading to universities of education to enhance teaching quality at all levels of the Nigerian education system. Indeed, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, during his administration, gave the approval for the implementation of the upgrade of these colleges within the reform agenda framework proposed by the then Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili. Hence, the announcement of the upgrade of these institutions to universities during the administration of the former President Goodluck Jonathan was received with a thunderous jubilation and joy by all and sundry in the Nigerian academia. On the 26th of May 2015, the federal government went further to appoint the vice chancellors for the newly upgraded universities. The letters of appointment were signed by the former Minister of Education as approved by the then President. Governing council of the colleges were also reconstituted into governing councils of the new universities, while the provosts were designated as deputy vice chancellors. The vice chancellors were directed to take charge of the institutions and to drive the transition processes from federal colleges of education status to federal universities of education. Upon reporting to the institutions, the vice chancellor set up transition committees to midwife issues related to the academic brief, redesignation of the schools into faculties, staff appraisal, and academic programs nomenclature of the universities, etc. Contacts were made with the National Universities Commission and Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAM, to clarify the accreditation program in the institutions. Admissions for the then autonomous undergraduate programs of these institutions were being expected when suddenly the vice chancellors were summoned on August 1st to the Federal Ministry of Education and were issued with letters to the effect that upgrade of the colleges to university status had been put on hold. This was possible because of the fact that the laws establishing the universities were not met at the time the upgrade of the colleges and universities was approved by the last administration. It is on this note, Mr. President and his colleagues, that this bill is brought before you for passage. It should be noted that these are well-established institutions that have strong infrastructural base that's better than what is obtainable in several universities in the country. Thus, the Federal University of Education of Owerri has more than the infrastructural requirement necessary for the setting up of a university. It should be remembered that one of the cardinal goals of this administration, Mr. President and his colleagues, of change is the strong development of our educational sector. It is in view of this fact that I urge you all to support the expeditious passage of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President, esteemed colleagues. This bill, like I said, these institutions has already been upgraded. All we will need is just the enabling legal framework for us to take off. The financial implications, Mr. President, already that fund has approved 500 million naira each for these institutions for takeoff. And that money is available. They're waiting for this law for them to be able to allow them to draw from that fund. Thank you.
Okay, Sir Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, my name is Ahmed Lawan. I represent Yobe North. Mr. President, let me congratulate my friend and colleague, Senator Samuel Anyau, for sponsoring the bill to establish this university. Mr. President, in 2010, the then administration announced the establishment of about 12 universities, federal universities, across the country. Only about 7 out of those were later legislated for to be established. I want to challenge the Federal Ministry of Education that the ministry should come up with all the bills necessary to establish those universities and these other ones that have recently announced. This is because we continue to appropriate funds for these institutions. They are already on ground for years. It doesn't take anything. In fact, we don't have to change much from the bills or the acts already establishing those institutions that have already been legislated for. So I want to take this opportunity to say that the Ministry of Education, in this case, for me, is found wanting, is sleeping, and that's why we have resorted to individual self-help, so to speak. Because we have this bill from Senator Samuel Anyau. There's another one coming immediately after from Senator Barrow Jibrin. What this means is I should go and bring my own bill because we have a federal university in my place that has not been legislated upon, and there are so many others strewn around the country. So I want to challenge the Minister of Education that within this year, before the next budget cycle, let's have all our universities and those colleges of education that have been upgraded to universities have laws establishing them. With this, I want to urge all my colleagues that we support this bill, and in fact, in advance, I'm supporting the bill sponsored by Senator Barrow Jibrin. Thank you very much, sir.
Is anybody against this bill? Okay. Can I put the question then? Those support that this bill be raised second time, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Alvan Ikoku Federal University of Education, Owerri, and for other matters connected therewith, 2017, second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Alvan Ikoku Federal University of Education, Owerri, and for other matters connected therewith, 2017, second reading taken, and referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions to report back in 4 weeks. Mr. Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the second reading of the Federal University of Education, Kano, Establishment ETC Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was first read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 1st December 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Jibril Barrow to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, before I begin, let me thank our able leader for laying the ground for this bill, this very important bill. Before I was given the chance, or I'm given the chance to bring forward the lead debate. Mr. President, the delete debate is just the same with that of Senator Anyanwu. And of course, it's going to be the same with the two other institutions affected. That is Ondo, the one at Ondo, and the one at Zaria. Having laid the ground, or say the preamble, let me just go straight to read the lead debate in order to everyone to understand that it's the same with that of Anyanwu. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, we all know that education is the bedrock of every modern society. The existence of a sound and robust educational system in any country is predicated on the availability of qualified and well-trained teachers to impart the required knowledge on the students. Thus, the need to have a strong system in our educational sector that shall continuously produce well-qualified and trained teachers as it is obtainable in other developed climes cannot be overemphasized. The bill, or this bill, was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, the 1st day of December, 2016. Mr. President of the Senate and my distinguished colleagues, you may recall that in the month of May 2015, the Federal Executive Council approved the upgrading of 4 colleges of education at Kano, Owerri, Ondo, and Zaria to federal universities of education. These institutions are known to be the oldest postgraduate teachers training colleges and the pioneer advanced teachers colleges through colleges of education in Nigeria. The idea of upgrading the colleges to autonomous teachers education degree awarding institutions goes as far back as the 1980s, when stakeholders and prominent educationists like Emeritus Professor Segun Adeshina proposed their upgrading to universities of education to enhance teaching quality at all levels of the Nigerian education system. Indeed, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, during his administration, gave the approval for the implementation of the upgrade of these colleges within the reform agenda framework proposed by then Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili. Hence, the announcement of the upgrade of this institution to universities during the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan was received with a thunderous jubilation and joy by all and sundry in the Nigerian academia. On the 26th of May, 2015, the federal government went further to appoint the vice chancellors for the newly upgraded universities. The letters of appointment were signed by the former Minister of Education as approved by the then President. Governing council of the colleges were also reconstituted into a governing council of the new universities, while the provosts were redesignated as deputy vice chancellors. The vice chancellors were directed to take charge of the institutions and to drive the transition processes from federal colleges of education status to federal universities of education. Upon reporting to the institutions, the vice chancellors set up transition committees to midwife issues relating to the academic brief, redesignation of the schools into faculties, staff appraisal and academic programs, nomenclature of the universities, and so on and so on. Contacts were made with National University Commission, NUC, and Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAM, to clarify the accreditation program in the institutions. Admission for the then autonomous undergraduate programs of these institutions were being expected when suddenly the Vice Chancellor were summoned on 1st August to the Federal Ministry of Education and were issued with letters to the effect that the upgrade of the colleges to the university status had been put on hold. This was possible because of the fact that the laws establishing the universities were not made at the time the upgrade of the colleges to the universities were approved by the last administration. It is on this note that this bill is brought before you for passage. It should be noted that these are well-established institutions that have strong infrastructural base that is better than what is obtainable in several universities in the country. What is needed is only the disbursement of 500 million naira that the federal government had promised to give the institution as take-off grant during the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan, but was not released to the end of that administration. In fact, the money has been approved by the President, by former President Goodluck Jonathan. I am sure that the third fund shall provide a take-up grant to the institution immediately. Immediately this bill is passed by the National Assembly and is assented to by the President. Thus, the Federal Minister of Education, the Federal University of Education, Kano, has more than the infrastructural requirement necessary for the setting up of a university. It should be remembered that one of the cardinal goals of this administration of change is the strong development of our educational sector. It is in view of this that I urge you all to support the expeditious passage of this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Intelligence Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, my respected colleagues. James Manager, CON, Delta South. Mr. President, I stand to support this bill. And of course, if you look at the one that we've just approved and the one we are considering now, the language is the same, the characters are also the same. The paging is also the same. And I think everything is perfectly the same. I haven't approved the one that we just considered. I think it is only fair, mutandis mutandis, that we also approve this particular one. The importance of education cannot be overemphasized. Just today, we celebrated women, and a lot of sentiments were expressed about how to bring women from where they are to where they should be. The only way out is education. The women who are here with us are very strong, very, very strong. They are like men. But if you go down to the ladder, to the villages, you can see the weaknesses of women very visible in them. Note that when you compare them with that of men, the women, the difference here is that because the women here are highly educated, and that makes the difference. So educating the child is something that is second to nothing. And the only way out is for you to have universities like this, for people to be educated. And these universities, 4 of them in number, they have a very strong history. The one of Owerri, the one of Kano, the Ondo, and then Zaria. They have a very strong history behind them. And so, just like the senior leader advised, and I think that's a very strong point, Mr. President, because these are universities that have been established, and there was already a transition in place. The chancellors of the universities have been appointed, the pro-chancellors have been appointed, and there was transition from colleges of education to universities. And then suddenly, no news. This is certainly not good enough. So it is up to the Ministry of Education to come up. Because if you don't have anybody here, that means your bill will not be here for Senate to consider. And that is not good enough, because whatever we are doing it holistically for the entire country. We are not just because somebody is here, that is why we are protecting the interests of the president. No, this is something that the previous governments have done before. So government is a continuum. So what we need to do is to direct the Ministry of Education to come up with a holistic, bill to cover all this. But in the absence of that, the ones that are before us, Mr. President, let us have a very robust thinking about them and then approve them. The one of Kano is like the one of Owerri. Just like we approved the one of Owerri, let us approve the one of Kano. Mr. President, to God be the glory. Thank you very much.
Amen. Is anybody against this bill? Okay. Distinguished colleagues, those in support that this bill be read second time, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal University of Education, Kano, and for other related matters connected therewith, 2017, second reading.
Very distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal University of Education, Kano, and for other related matters therewith, 2017, second reading taken and referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund to report back in 4 weeks. Sir Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 5th order of the day is the second reading of the Gas Flaring Prohibition and Punishment Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 3rd November 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Albert Bassi to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time. And it appears Senator Bassi is not here. In his absence, Mr. President, I move that we stand down this bill.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the motion that we do stand down this bill to another legislative day. I so second. Thank you, Mr. President.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So this particular bill will now we stand it down till another legislative day, right? Thank you. State Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day is the second reading of the Integrated Community Development Agency Establishment ETC Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 23rd June 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Stella Odua to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Odua.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, my name is Stella Odua. I represent Anambra North. Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity to lead this debate on National Integrated Community Development Agency Bill of 2017. Mr. President, and highly respected colleagues, rural integrated development involves a coordinated program that requires integrating the developmental challenges that rural people face to help improve their living condition in a sustainable manner so as to touch every aspect of their lives. A rural village in Africa faces interrelated problems that affect all aspects of their lives: the needs for clean water, electricity, good health care, good roads, and uniformly visible in our rural community. The extension of the change culture of government into rural area so as to make our rural dwellers have a feel of good governance. Mr. President, dear colleagues, the major significant index of measuring the level of social economic growth and success of...
Yes, welcome back. Earlier on, at the beginning of this program, we told you that the Senate went into closed session, and we thought something really was going to come out of that. And explanation given for the executive session, that is a closed session, was one, they deliberated on the issues pertaining the running of the Senate, and then secondly, which I think is also the most important, was that they have deliberated on how and then why they want to now withdraw their intention of sending a delegation to South Africa to discuss with their counterpart in the South African Parliament on the xenophobic attack on Nigerians. This, as they said, is because the House of Representatives has already also constituted a delegation that will be going there. So they thought it's going to be a duplication of effort. So the delegation from the Senate is now not going to South Africa, but that of the House of Representatives will be going to South Africa to discuss with the South African Parliament the issues of xenophobic attack on Nigerians and other nationalities in that enclave. This is how far we can go on this edition from the National Assembly, coming to you from the Senate. On behalf of the entire crew, this is Wazir Zayan saying, have a very pleasant day and bye-bye.
Our programs are getting better and fresher. And it's because we are thinking about you. NTA, it's all about you.
Gas pipelines are the arteries for powering electricity. When the artery is burst, then the entire system collapses. Vandalizing gas pipelines is a criminal offense against the Nigerian people. Let us join hands and protect our gas pipelines from the enemies of Nigeria. Report any suspected vandal to the security operatives. Let us stop vandals before they destroy our collective national heritage, so we can have the Nigeria of our dreams, where there will be light at all times. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Resembles the coconut and oil palm trees that grow in the forest regions of Nigeria in their structure and leaves. The date palm only grows in arid and semi-arid regions and produces a different kind of fruit. The date palm tree does very well in Dutse, the Jigawa state capital, and its environs. It is an observed fact that traditional varieties of the date palm take years to mature from infancy when they begin to bear fruits. Popularly known as dabino in Hausa land, fruits of the date palm come in various colors and sizes. The flesh of the fruit is usually eaten raw when ripe or left to dry out in the sun as a form of preservation. This fruit, when dissected, has a long, hard, oily seed that runs through its length. Date palm fruits are very sweet and are eaten as snacks in the arid and semi-arid parts of Nigeria. Dates have a religious function among Muslims, particularly during the fasting month of Ramadan. This fruit is preferred over any other thing while breaking the fast and is usually eaten in odd numbers in compliance with the tradition of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. These days, the date palm fruit is assuming a social function among the houses during wedding fatihas and naming ceremonies, where it is supplanting the kola nut. Perhaps that may explain why you see heaps of the fruit on sale on the streets and in marketplaces in major towns and villages in the northern part of this country.
Information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the U-Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app, your access to real-time information.
Plateau State is one of the states in Nigeria that is blessed with many culture and traditions, resulting to a good number of languages spoken amongst the people. One of such people with an interesting culture and tradition is the Amorunzu ethnic group. The Amorunzu people are found in Jingur, Basa local government area of Plateau State. According to oral history, they are believed to have migrated from the northeastern part of Nigeria.
The history we have is that the Amo came from Niger and settled at Borno. From Borno, they came to Pengal.
Amapurunzu areke amapartuwa nuzu kipini dusu nimbochu dinganu daga bochi inanada tolo.
Amorunzu people migrated from Bauchi to Kondonkaya, from Kondonkaya to Pingel, to where we are today called Jingir.
Kunde, the ancestor of the Amorunzu people, is said to have settled on this hill called the Runzu Hill.
History tells us that when they came from Kondonkaya, they settled at the present hill of the Runzu people. The hill is in the east of, southeast of Jingri town. That's the hill where I think maybe you have gone to that place and see. That's where we call the Runzu Hills.
Getting to the top of the hill, where it is believed the ancestors of the Runzu people lived, could be described as a challenge.
Unanda ke nuzu daga Maiduguri har ne nuzu daga Niger idau Maiduguri daga Maiduguri ida.
This is the Runzu Hill, where the ancestors of the Amorunzu people settled. He migrated from Niger to Maiduguri, from Maiduguri to Bauchi, from Bauchi to Pingel, and his name is Kundi.
A ganin nuzu kusar kadas nenge ame ku ganan na fukoran baturi arba lu musare ase kellengare kefu koremu ya kefu koren in mozun ne chize.
At the top of the Runzu Hill, our people use stones to make their farming tools. This is where women, children, and the old used to settle and dance around.
Minera vati kipina kupara kwane asa tusono minene awani datiza ediso nati nadi ni mo nyamba sede mone midu chu daga kitener neni mi tolso kubili wadak asa miso chung asa wane da fi yesa fi nuzu fi danwa ko awane se wor fi.
The myth surrounding this spring water hole is that a snake used to serve as the guardian of this water hole. People come to appease this snake before fetching water from the water hole.
Iburun torotu bukimu minere matizo isuli kanjumu minere matizo iso minere matizo ito so somo fatu ku para kongo na minere ina tisa zamu je mu ga dutsen da suna da
In ancient times, the Amurunzu people were warriors and had enemies all around them. As such, they had charms to protect bush fields and crops.
In gonan ba naka bane, in ka dauki gonar wani amfanin gonan ba zai yi ba. Kuma in an kwantar da shi ya kwanta.
This is the charm we use in protecting our farmland and to settle disputes. Once the charm stands up, we have blessings, and if it doesn't, then there's a problem.
At the dawn of civilization, Amurunzu people started coming down from the hill to live on plain ground called Kalambai, from the word Columbite.
Ya tolu daga ku farare idan saki kangana. Isaki kana maloro. Bani daki kangana kafin.
Legend has it that this is where the Amurunzu people settled when they came down from the hill and made contact with the white people during mining. It is called Kalambai from the word Columbite.
The Amurunzu people are predominantly farmers. They cultivate food produce such as maize, beans, millet, soya beans, sorghum, and vegetables, among others.
This one is a human being. We have just shown the people, want to show the people that our people are farmers. You can see this is a hoe. This is just to tell other people that people are farming here, and this is the God that is protecting these farmers. And that is why we show this man standing. The man is standing so that anybody that is passing will see a man going to the farm with his own hoe. And as you can see, this is a woman. There is no way in our land we regard women with great importance. In fact, if you are a thief in our place, you don't get married. Nobody gives you a wife. And we have one custom. It is believed that when you have more than one wife, you are a great man. But if you have one wife, completely you are considered not anybody. A lazy man and somebody that is not considered in the society. So when we are going to the farm, we organize women, beautiful ones, young ones, to come and dance for us. And that is why in our shrine, we put this one as to show that we are farmers. Then we put this one as a woman who is supporting us to farm, because without the woman, you won't even farm. When we were doing this Izara, you saw women following boys, trying to tell them to what? To give them encouragement. Because without the woman, their mama will not even farm.
They were farming and hunting. Well, the products were guinea corn, tamba, and rizga. These were the type of crops that they were farming. They are producing it in large quantity. To be able to eat and to exchange if it so needs. You will exchange with somebody who has something. If you don't have Douro, Then I have tamba. I will give you the rope, you give me the tamba.
They also rear animals like goats, sheep, and chickens. The traditional architecture of Amarunzu people are simple round huts made of mud and clay and thatched with grasses. They center their religious beliefs on the worship of Insil or Dodo, who serves as their god.
Somebody wants to send any spiritual thing to come and affect those people farming in that particular place. This horn and this arrow will protect it. It will only end here. As you can see, look at this little thing that is holding this entire horn, entire arrows. You can see it's a very small thing. It shows that anything coming into us as we are farming, this thing is going to protect us. It's just like our God in the traditional time.
The Amarunzu people have tribal marks. These are called eoliths.
Parents used to have it. You see them fashioning the whole of their fest like that with this. And I brought some old men that were typical example of that. Well, the young men today, they have their own, they will have 3 here, 3 there, and some on their chins and their nose. That's it. So their own ones so spread like those of the old men. Okay. Women too, they have their own different type. And that of the women, they have it in the face, some of them do it in the hands, and some of them do it at their backs too.
Dressing among the Amarunzu people was simple. The women wore leaves, afa, while the men wore animal skin, kuki. But today, their dressing has changed. Amarunzu people have a unique way of relaxation when farming activities are less. Some spend their time at the traditional brewery, others go to the wrestling ground, while others still engage in storytelling. A major festival of the Amarunzu is called Iani.
Iani was a sort of community farming. Those rich people in the Amo land, he will buy a cow, and then he will invite the youths to come and farm for him.
This farming festival is significant to the Amarunzu people. The whole process of Iani starts when the rainy season sets in, with a large number of farmers participating. One interesting aspect of the Iani festival is the role the flag band Unantuta plays.
The reason behind it is, once there is no flag, that means there will be no Iani. So the flag indicates to us or the entire people. In fact, some people might be even passing. When they see the flag, they know that there is Inyani there. Some of them will just forget whatever they are going to do and then join the Inyani.
The flagman moves around with the flag, preventing the farmers from farming around the flag. During Iani, women are allowed to participate, but not in the farming exercise. Rather, they sing praises to motivate the farmers. At the Iani festival, the lives of all the participants are a major concern.
Those with bow and arrow are responsible for the production of the participants of the Iani festival.
Apart from promoting and encouraging farming, the festival accords an opportunity to select a hero called Barde, who will rule for the next 5 years. Once the Barde is selected, he will then be presented to the elders for their blessings.
I have been participating in this Iani for long, and that has helped me to become a hero today, and I am very happy. May God help us.
I'm proud today. It's because of this Iani festival that I got a man to marry.
I am happy today because this title was not given based on power. Rather, it was given based on one's activeness in the Iani festival.
That aside, it is now time for merrymaking. With the flagman removing the flag, the Iani festival comes to an end. The Iani festival is a festival of unity and recreation. This is our culture. This is our tradition. This indeed is our heritage.
Fishing is not only an art, but a vocation and a way of life among the people of Ibi local government area of Taraba State. The Nwunyo Fishing Festival is a great cultural event associated with the Nwunyo Lake since the past 96 years. The lake is located 5 kilometers north of Ibi town. Usually held every year, the festival has become a way of reminding the people of the laudable legacies bequeathed to the people and the leaders of Ibi. The name Nwunyo literally means a hideout of monstrous aquatic animals such as crocodile and hippopotamus. This meaning is derived from the Nwunyo Creek, which contains a variety of these aquatic animals. The Nwunyo Lake is said to be the largest in West Africa, running a stretch of about 15 kilometers as a tributary to the river Benue. History has it that the lake was discovered by Bula Urbo in 1826, a great descendant of the Jibu dynasty who was sent to Ibi to look after the activities carried out by traders around the river. Bula later transformed the large-scale fishing activities into a fishing festival by members of the Ibi community. Thus began the annual Nwunyo Fishing Festival, which has continued to serve as a unifying force for the people of Ibi and Taraba State in general, making it a world tourism potential for tourists all over the world. In 1969, an elaborate fishing festival complete with water and traditional sports was organized. Surrounding communities were expected to catch fish in the lake once every year, and the catch was divided among the fishermen and Bula. Some of the activities associated with the fishing festival today include boat racing, swimming, boat regatta, masquerades, dances, traditional dances and fish catching competition. The fish catching competition is the main event of the festival, while others are meant for recreation. The chief of Ibi is the custodian of the festival, while the Serkinrua, spiritual head of Munyo Lake, is the overseer of the lake. He patrols the lake with his guards on regular basis because nobody is allowed to fish in the lake for a period of 1 year before the festival and 1 week after the event. The festival has undergone a lot of innovations, with different governments over a long period of time receiving a massive boost in funding, prestige and attention. In 2008, it became known as the International Fishing and Cultural Festival. It began to be organized by the State Tourism Board. The biggest catch of fish so far from the festival is said to weigh 318 kilograms. Ibi town, which is about 5 kilometers from Lake Munyo, continues to play a major role in the annual